Timmy was his name. Timmy Cocorico. I'll never forget him, or the way he made me feel. We've not seen each other for so long now that the memories are starting to fade, but the feelings still rage on inside me like nothing I've ever felt before. At night is when they're at their most intense. Lying in bed, when suddenly, a tingle in my testicles make my whole body shiver. I don't know what triggers them, but I know who. Timmy. It's almost as if I can physically hear his name ringing from down below in my gonads when it happens. Let's go back to where it all began. I want to live it out one more time. The year was 2019. I was doing my routine web browsing, when suddenly I had a message in my inbox. Oh, who's this now? I thought. Messages are nothing unusual, I get them multiple times a day. I'm quite a popular figure online. I used to run a successful video game news website. Hi. I'm Timmy Cocorico. You probably already know who I am. I've worked on a lot of your favorite video games. I even hold world records for my involvement in them. I was wondering if I could talk to you about a possible business proposition. Looking forward to hearing from you. Timmy. I couldn't believe what I was reading. He was right. I absolutely knew who he was. I used to watch him on TV giving his wonderful thoughts on the latest video games and listening to his awesome music while playing games with my pals. I sat there reading the message over and over, my mouth hanging until it got so dry I began to choke. I reached beside me, still fixated on the screen, picked up my vintage video game tumbler that sat beside me and swallowed every drop of water contained within it. Immediately before I had finished processing the message in its entirety, I clicked the reply button. I could have sworn it was flashing, but I must have been imagining it, such was my desire to talk to Timmy. I'm not sure what I wrote. I typed and sent the message so quickly I let my fingers do all the work for me. My fingers did a lot more work of a different kind after that. As soon as the message was sent, I rushed into my vibrating gamer's chair, turned it on to max setting and got to work on myself. The seat was cold on my bare buttocks, but I didn't care, I had to do it right there and then. As an extra treat, I took one of my many gaming controllers, set the vibration on automatic and stuck it down my blue bootcut jeans. I did it with such force, the button popped off onto my hardwood floor and the zipper shot down by itself. With one hand holding the controller in place on the head of my throbbing schlong, and the other cupping my testicles, I got to work while reading the message over and over in my head. It was bliss. My memories of Timmy popped into my head, and before I knew it I came. My liquid dribbled out and slid down my thigh, onto the faux leather gaming chair I sat upon. I didn't clean it up right away, I dabbed at it with my finger and took a taste. This is the taste of Timmy, I told myself. It wasn't until half an hour or so later that I cleared it up. The rest of the day was spent waiting nervously for Timmy to reply. Days went by, I couldn't focus on anything. Chores, making videos for my online channel, anything. Then, 4 days later, I got a reply. Timmy was back in my life and the dopamine rush made all the waiting worth it. He wanted to do a live interview with me on stream. I couldn't believe it. Of course I immediately agreed. Worried I came off too strong in my reply, I waited nervously once more. Luckily he replied within an hour this time. It was done. A date and time for our interview was set. 1 week from now, I'd be seeing Timmy face to face, actually talking to him. This has got to be a dream. I told myself over and over. But it was no dream. It was reality. Once again, I took to my gaming chair, unzipped my now buttonless jeans and repeated my routine once more. This time it didn't dribble out, but shot at least 3 feet in front of me. My creamy load landed on a small mat given to me at a gaming convention in previous years. Luckily I had closed the door. That's where my dog usually sits. That week seemed like a blur. Nothing made sense. Nothing else mattered. Then, the day came, and so did I once more. I sat in front of my computer at our agreed time, and Timmy and I made our virtual connection. There he was, just as I remembered him. His hair wasn't as black as it once was, small specks of gray were scattered throughout, but that just made him look even better. Oh yummy, I thought to myself. Luckily my bulging blue and still buttonless jeans could not be seen on the camera. We chatted about anything and everything. But mostly about video games. And specifically, a video game console he was bringing out. Called Palico. Not only was he bringing a console out, but he wanted to use me as one of the main voices to help spread the word. He wants me. I repeated to myself for the rest of the day. Was this reality? Did Timmy Cocorico really pick me out of everybody? This was a dream come true. A dream I didn't even know about mere weeks ago. Following that day and our chat, we kept in contact. Timmy would tell me what he wanted me to do. He even sent me a hat as a personal thank you. I wore that hat everywhere, even in bed. One day I finally took it off, and left it on my bed. Later that evening, I went to grab it to show my friend, who is an author. Upon arriving in my room, I saw something that shook me to my core. My dog, Michael, sat there with the hat in his mouth. Or what was left of the hat at least. It was ruined. He had ruined my hat. What the fuck have you done to my hat, you evil beast? I shouted at him. My friend, the author, rushed upstairs to find me kneeling on the floor, clutching the remains of that precious hat. He calmed me down eventually. I picked up the pieces of the hat, and put it in a special box that I now keep on top of my wardrobe, next to one of my many classic but dusty video game collections. The hat may be in pieces, but it's still the hat. The hat given to me by that brilliant man. The next couple of weeks were spent making videos for Timmy. The videos he had kindly suggested I make. Everything was going great. Then, one day, I went online and saw that Timmy had done a video interview with someone else. What the fuck? I said aloud. I clicked it immediately and was horrified by what I saw. Timmy was talking to someone else. Not only was he talking to someone else, he was saying the exact same things to this piece of shit that he had said to me. My heart sank. I felt like my world was falling apart. I just sat there, watching until it ended. Then, I did what I knew I had to do. I called Timmy. He answered and I let it all out. How could you do this to me? You made me think you had chosen me specifically and now I see you doing the same with someone else. What the fucking fuck, Timmy? Timmy replied calmly. He explained the situation. I was the first one. I was special. He chose me before the other guy. He also told me that he would be talking to and making similar videos with many other people, but that I shouldn't worry, because he'd be thinking of me the whole time. Strangely, I quickly felt so much better. Just hearing those words coming out of his mouth soothed me in a way I've never felt before. Also, it made my testicles tingle. Days, weeks, months passed. Everything was going great. Me and Timmy had kept in contact. Timmy had made videos with lots of other people. He had even given them hats, just like the one he gave me, the hat that sits in pieces on my wardrobe. But, even though their hats were in great condition, it didn't matter. Mine was still the best. I even made friends with many of these other people. I would stay up to the early hours some days, talking about the upcoming Palico. One of them even wrote songs about the Palico, one made memes, another wrote brilliant traps. Often during our streams I would think about Timmy. But I'd simply put those feelings to good use under the desk, rubbing my ding-a-ling. Nobody on there could tell. Finally I had a group of friends I could be proud of. Timmy had opened me up to a community I couldn't have dreamed about. One day in early 2021, one of my new friends, Vintage Dude, said he was arranging an event for us to all meet, and not only that, Timmy was going to be there. I wasn't nervous anymore at the thought of meeting him. I knew we would get on brilliantly and it would lead to amazing things. After many weeks and months of streams, tugging it to Timmy, and walking my dog, the big day was here. Tomorrow we would meet, I'd finally get to see him. Finally get to run my fingers through his graying hair. Or at least I desperately hoped so. I didn't sleep a wink that night. Mostly because of nerves, but also because I masturbated a lot. As soon as the sun came up, I jumped out of the house and started my journey. It was a blur, which was probably quite dangerous as I was driving. But nevertheless, I finally got there. After an hour or so of hanging with my new friends who I felt I knew inside and out already, there was a knock at the door. "Oh, that's Timmy," a voice said calmly from behind me. My penis got erect in a way I've never felt before. It was as if my cock was trying to lead me to Timmy, just like a stick can lead you to water. There was no time to go and pound off. I had to stand there with my trouser tent and wait. Timmy walked in. Immediately his eyes went down to my bulge as if his eyes were a magnet and my trouser snake was another. He was quite short, so they were almost at eye level. His face resembled that of a fat child's upon seeing a big juicy donut. He puckered his lips, looked up at me and winked. "Sorry, I'll be back in a minute," I blurted out. I couldn't hold it any longer. I rushed outside frantically looking for a quiet place where I wouldn't be disturbed. After several minutes of searching, I ended up deep in the woods behind the house. There was a small area surrounded by trees where I knew I wouldn't be disturbed. I pulled my trousers down and out it popped, like a cow being released from a slaughterhouse by animal rights activists. It was free. I crouched down, dug my feet into the dirt, back up against one of the many trees and went to town. I came almost immediately, but I continued without stopping for a second round. Timmy deserves seconds. I thought to myself, and boy did I give them to him. Sweating and unable to go on, my red cock cried for mercy. As much as I'd have loved to carry on, I knew it was time to stop. My jism sat in a pool under me, slowly mixing with the dirt like the first stage of making chocolate custard. I pulled up my trousers, grabbed a leaf, then wiped my brow and sweaty ass cheeks, luckily in that order. I made my way back to the house slowly. I couldn't go any faster, my legs were like jello. Before I even reached the house, the door swung open and there was Timmy. "Hey buddy, we've been waiting for you," he proclaimed. I was so exhausted from my little session, I wasn't nervous at all. "Here I am, you can send the search party home," I replied. We chuckled, and threw our arms around each other. He reached down and gave my right buttock a little squeeze. At that moment, I knew if I went back to that secluded spot, I could go for another 20 minutes, but at the risk of friction burns and looking like a bad guest, I decided against it. We went into the house. Everyone was sat in the basement. They were playing Palico games. Games like Sharkface, Asteroid Shatter and William the Wolf graced the multiple screen setup. Everyone was having such a great time, but all I could focus on was the little squeeze Timmy gave me earlier. Hours passed and gradually some people started leaving. It was my time to go. I had to hold back the tears knowing this would be the last time I saw Timmy in God knows how long, but I put on a brave face, stood up and told the remaining guests I was leaving. We hugged, high-fived and said our goodbyes. I made my way up the basement stairs, and just as I reached the top I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't look. I somehow knew it was him. I went outside, still not looking behind me, and approached my car. I felt hands on my shoulders. It was Timmy, as I knew it was. He turned me around, pushed me against my car, planted his lips on mine and grabbed my crotch. We made out passionately for at least 20 seconds. I got erect straight away, but because of the events of earlier it hurt. My foreskin was desperately trying to hold the inner beast from escaping, but it was no good. I could feel it bursting out. It didn't matter, the ecstasy from having Timmy to myself made it more than worth it. No words were exchanged the whole time, until after when Timmy simply said, "How does it feel to make out with a multiple times world record holder?" I said nothing. Timmy walked back to the house, turned around with a sly smile on his face and winked. I got in my car, turned the engine on and drove off. Those 4 hours were spent in silence. No music, the sound of the engine and passing cars barely registering. All I could hear were Timmy's words echoing throughout my head over and over. Timmy was no longer just my friend, he was my lover. My lover, I couldn't believe it. Timmy Cocorico was my lover. Arriving home, pulling into the drive at 5 a.m., there was only one thing to do. I went inside, covered my dick in ointment, and went for a very delayed round 3. Almost a year passed. Contact with Timmy remained as it was. We would do streams as we always had done. He would occasionally send me pictures of himself, his world record certificates, pictures of him and his famous friends, everything. One day, out of nowhere, I heard an engine roar outside my house. It was Timmy, in his bright red sports car. He honked his horn, coincidentally as I was honking my horn, and shouted, "I've come to give you a ride, big boy." I ran out of the house and jumped over the door. We drove off. I put my hand on his leg, but he quickly moved it off. "What's wrong, Timmy?" I asked. "We need to talk," he replied. Oh no, I thought. We drove to the local Burger King, where Timmy treated me to my favorite meal, fries, burger and a Coke. I ate it expecting the worst, and as suspected, he told me the words that I didn't want to hear. "We can't talk or see each other anymore," Timmy said. "You see, the other guys have taken your place. I don't have any use for you anymore," he claimed without any kind of emotion. "What? No. I'll do whatever you want, I'll help you however I can," I pleaded. "No, I'm sorry, it's no good, there's nothing else to be said," he snapped back with. "How could you do this to me?" I shouted. "Look, you meant a lot to me at the time, but the others were always there. That day we made out at Vintage Dude's house? As soon as I went back in, I gave all the other guys hand jobs. I jumped out of the car, ran down the street, still taking bites out of the burger. He may have broken my heart, but I was still hungry. Finally I reached my house, burst in and ran up the stairs. I grabbed the box containing the remains of my hat and sat on my now crusty gamer chair. I just held the box, I didn't open it but I gripped it tight. I confidently walked downstairs with my head held high, went outside, and set the box on fire. Tears started to fall down my face as it reached its final stages of destruction, but deep down I knew it was making me feel better and was the right thing to do. Occasionally I still see videos of Timmy and the other guys showing up online, but now I feel nothing but pity for them all. My friends for still falling for his act, and Timmy, for giving guys he doesn't even like hand jobs. What else could be doing to, or for, them? I don't know, and at this point I don't care. However, as much as I might hate Timmy now, I still value those feelings he gave me. Because as they were happening they felt real to me, so in that moment that's all that matters. The many loads I shed over him, they all count as valid deposits that felt brilliant at the time, and they reminded me how good life can feel. Timmy is dead to me, but his memories and what they represent live on,